Correct. Talking about trauma, like you just told us, that the way parents introduce the habits to their children. So, if there is a household where a child is growing up, where there are a lot of fights, where there's always shoutings, do you think that also has a negative impact on a child when he or she grows up? And then you mentioned about second brain development that completes when you're between 18 to 21.
Right.
So how can a person help themselves from dealing with that, now that they are already in grade 10 or grade 11, now that they are 18 to 21, and I hope they are listening, how can they help themselves, get better? How can they do it?
I think coming to the first question, undoubtedly, yes. It does affect the child's brain. A lot of times, parents feel that the child does not understand what's happening, but the child also can sense that, the tone in which the parents are speaking or the facial expressions of the parents are different from what they normally are.
Okay.
And these aspects are important because the sense of security that the brain develops comes from the family. And when there is disharmony in the family, that has a very clear impact on the child. And a lot of times we see, young school children, having school refusals or, performance anxieties, not wanting to talk about a problem, not able to communicate their issues. All of this comes from that lack of sense of security. And now, when this brain starts growing and continuing to grow under these kind of environments, there is a greatest risk of developing anxieties and personality issues. A lot of times, people who have anxious personalities, dependent personalities,
correct,
or there's a particular personality disorder called as borderline personality disorder. Most of these individuals do have a very clear-cut traumatic experience which started at a very young age. So undoubtedly, parents should be looking at this aspect. They should be making sure that the environment that they create at home, not just the environment, but even the content that they watch on television while the child is around, is very important. And now coming to the second part of it, when we talk about teenagers who try understand these things, but unfortunately are not able to change the unfavorable situation at home, the first thing that you can always do is communicate. Probably sometimes when you say it out, the parents understand it better. When you say that you don't like this, when you say that, this scares you or this creates fear, a lot of times parents get that realization that, okay, a husband might not like it when his wife says it, but he will really change when his son or his daughter says it.
Okay.
So same with, other people in the family. It can be grandparents or uncles and aunts. They understand when the child expresses it. Second, even if that isn't working, I think, there are a lot of, there's a lot of information in regards to this on electronic media. There is a lot of information in regards to this coming from schools. You should always go talk to your counselor at school or talk to someone who's responsible, for, health related activities in school. Gradually introduce some relaxation techniques, deep breathing exercises. So once you start communicating either with the family or with the counselor, you start understanding how do you deal with this, how you process this, and how you come out of this. So communication plays a very important role.
Okay, so communication is important. Otherwise, the way you have grown up, you will pass on the same to your children and the cycle keeps repeating. Right? Very well said, doctor. And one more question I would like to ask you regarding the same is, what's the right way to set boundaries that doesn't make even teenagers feel that they are being controlled? Because now they don't like being controlled. When we say don't do this, don't watch this, that's the first thing they like to do.
Well, I would again say it's communication, but coming from the opposite side.
Okay.
So a lot of times when parents put in some rules, they've never asked if the child is comfortable with this particular rule. But I think if the parent can sit with the child, let's take a very simple example. If you want to make some, rules in regards to using television, it's very easy for the parent to say, okay, you're not using the TV from now, or not more than 1 hour. But instead, if you sit down with the child, explain them why television is bad, ask the child, why are they watching television? Is it only for entertainment, or is it loneliness, or is it because they don't have anything else to do it at home? I think this kind of a communication can help come out, bring out more answers, more solutions. and also giving that kind of an importance to the child helps the child engage in those activities more. So somewhere, when you're giving the child an option and asking him to set out a rule, there is a higher probability he would stick to that rule than the parent saying, okay, no ice cream from today, okay, you're not eating biscuits from today. Instead, you can ask them, okay, biscuit is not good for health, but I know that you like it. Can we like space it out? Would you like to do it once in 3 days? Then the child may say, no, once in 3 days is too much. I'm eating it twice a day now. Okay, then can we do it alternate days right now? Once we stick to that alternate days, we've already come one step forward. And now you can gradually introduce the other rules. So I would say sitting down and having a conversation with the child and talking to them why these things are important. Same, even if the child wants, to set up some, boundaries for themselves. Like a lot of times children tell us, I don't really like it when my mom just opens my door and walks into it. But, they're not able to communicate it. So I tell them, why don't you just try, sit down and talk to them about it? If it's not happening, then let me come into the picture. A lot of times they're able to deal with it on their own. So they don't need me anymore there. So conversations play a very important role.
But do you think Indian family gives that space to their child? Why do you want to lock the door is the first question that comes up. Why do you need a single room? Why do you need privacy?
Right.
There's no concept of privacy in Indian households. But like you said, communication is the only key, and that is very much needed. In fact, very well said. I never thought why I love watching TV. Being an overworked adult, I love my job. I love what I'm doing. And I like to take up more projects. But then when I get free time, I myself love watching movies, web series, but I never question myself why I like to do that. This is a very good thing that you told us, dear viewers. I think it's time you question yourself as well. And it's not just teenagers, parents, adults, older generation. If you like watching movies and web series, or why are you hooked to the screen time? It's time we also ask this question to ourselves. Moving on to the next segment, we have spoken enough about parents and teenagers. Now let's get on to adult life, their struggles, stress and breakdowns. So teenagers think adulthood is freedom, but adults know actually what stress they are going through. So why is stress and anxiety skyrocketing among adults nowadays?
Well, I think, the lifestyles that we have chosen is undoubtedly one important aspect because the number of working hours, the kind of rest that we are able to give, and at the same time, like I was talking some time back, the kind of food that we are eating, all of it is actually causing changes inside the system, which is nothing but stress. So now when we talk about stress, I'm talking about a particular hormone in our system called as cortisol,
Yes.
which is the stress hormone. Frankly talking, cortisol is a good thing because now let's try to look back at, when you were a student and when I was a student. Probably 1 month before the exam, we were able to do one chapter a day. Gradually, 15 days before the exam, we were able to do 3 chapters in a day. 5 days before the exam, we were able to do 10 chapters in a day.
Correct.
1 day before the exam, we did all the 30 chapters. And 10 minutes before the exam, if somebody came and said, okay, the question is coming from this particular chapter, you finish reading that whole chapter.
Correct.
All of this is actually stress, which is positive stress.
Okay.
But now, when this gradually builds up and is not cooling down, that is when the problem happens. So I always give this example. It's like you use a vessel to boil milk. After the milk is boiled, you switch off the light or, the gas. Immediately, if you touch the vessel, it's going to be hot. So basically, just because you switched off the fire doesn't mean that the vessel also has cooled down. It's going to take some time to cool down. But none of us are actually giving that cooling off time in our days. So I start my day with stress, I end my day with stress, I sleep, I wake up and I again start stress. So basically, one, the lifestyle which is increasing the cortisol, and the same lifestyle which is doing nothing to reduce the cortisol. Both of this is one important reason why stress and mental health issues have worsened. And stress is not just leading into mental health issues. A lot of times individuals complaining of basic changes, starting from hair fall to skin changes to thyroid issues to PCODs to obesities, all of them are coming because of this one particular hormone called as cortisol. And
Okay.
somewhere dealing with cortisol is what we need to learn.